Learn English through stories with shadowing and conversation. In a small district in New York, many artists lived in a building. Two young women, Sue and Johnsy, shared a studio on the top floor. They had come from different places, but they both loved art and food, so they became great friends. In November, a cold and invisible visitor arrived in the city, pneumonia. It struck many people, and poor Johnsy became very ill. She lay in her bed, barely moving, and looked through the small window at the brick wall of the house next door. One morning, the doctor spoke to Sue in the hallway. "She has 1 chance in 10, he said. But that chance depends on her desire to live. Your friend has decided that she is not going to get better. Is she worrying about something?" "She wanted to paint the Bay of Naples one day," Sue said, "but she has nothing else on her mind." "Does she have anything worth living for?" the doctor asked. "A man, perhaps?" "A man?" Sue said, sounding annoyed. "Is a man worth more than the sun? No, doctor, there is nothing like that." After the doctor left, Sue went into the room with her drawing board. She was whistling, trying to be cheerful. Suddenly, she heard a low sound Johnsy was whispering. She counted backwards. 11, 10, 9. Sue looked out of the window. She saw an old ivy vine climbing the brick wall. The cold autumn wind had blown almost all the leaves away. "What is it, dear?" Sue asked. 6, Johnsy said, her voice weak. "They are falling faster now. 3 days ago there were almost 100. It makes my head ache to count them, but now it's easy. There goes another one. Only 5 left now." "5 what, sweetheart?" "Leaves on the ivy vine. When the last one falls, I must go too. I've known it for 3 days." "Oh, what a load of rubbish," Sue said, trying to sound firm. "The doctor said you have a good chance of getting better. Try to eat some soup." "There goes another one," Johnsy said. "No, I don't want any soup. Only 4 left now. I want to see the last one fall before it gets dark. Then I'll go too." Sue went downstairs to visit Mr. Behrman, an old painter who lived on the ground floor. He was a fierce-looking little man who was a failure in art. For 40 years he had talked about painting a masterpiece, but he had never started it. Sue told him about Johnsy's silly idea. Behrman shouted, "Are you mad? Is it possible that anyone could be so stupid as to die because leaves fall from a vine? I will not paint. I am going up to see Johnsy." They went upstairs. Johnsy was sleeping. They went into the other room and looked out of the window at the ivy vine. They looked at each other for a moment without speaking. A cold rain was falling, mixed with snow. Behrman sat down and started to paint. The next morning, Johnsy woke up and immediately asked Sue to pull up the curtain. Sue was afraid, but she did it. The ivy vine was still there, and look, on the wall against the brick, there was still 1 leaf. It was the last one. It was still dark green near the stem, but its edges were yellow. It hung bravely from a branch, 20 feet above the ground. "It is the last one," said Johnsy. "I thought it would fall during the night. I heard the wind." But the day passed, and even through the night, the wind blew, but the leaf stayed. The next morning, Johnsy looked out again. The leaf was still there. She called Sue to her side. "I've been a bad girl, Sue," Johnsy whispered. Something made that last leaf stay there to show me how wicked it was to want to die. It is a sin to want to die. Please, bring me some soup." An hour later, the doctor arrived. "You are doing well," he said. "In a few days, you will be out of danger." Later that day, Sue went to see Behrman. He was in his room, very sick. He only had pneumonia for 2 days. The janitor found him in his room, helpless and in pain. His shoes and clothes were soaking wet and cold. They couldn't understand where he had been on such a terrible night. Then they found a lantern that was still lit, a ladder that had been moved, and some brushes with green and yellow paint on them. "Look out of the window, dear," Sue said to Johnsy. "Look at that ivy leaf on the wall. Didn't you wonder why it never fluttered or moved when the wind blew?" "Oh, darling, it is Behrman's masterpiece. He painted it there the night the last leaf fell." District. In the story, Sue and Johnsy lived in a small district of New York. A district is an area or neighbourhood within a city. Different districts often have different characteristics. This particular district was known for artists and small studios. Example: they lived in a quiet district where many painters and writers worked. What a load of rubbish! When Sue says, "What a load of rubbish," she doesn't mean actual rubbish or garbage. She means, "That's nonsense. Don't be silly." It's a very common British expression used when you strongly disagree with what someone has said. Example: "I'm going to fail the exam." What a load of rubbish. You've studied really hard. Fierce looking. The story describes Behrman as a fierce-looking old man. Fierce-looking means someone looks tough, strict, or a little frightening. However, it describes appearance, not personality. In many stories, a fierce-looking character turns out to be kind-hearted. Example: the old man looked fierce-looking with his thick beard and serious face, but he was very kind to the children. In this story, Behrman looked rough and intimidating, but inside he was caring, brave, and generous. O. Henry was an American short story writer famous for his emotional stories and surprising endings. His real name was William Sidney Porter. The Last Leaf is one of his most famous works and is still loved by readers around the world. And that brings us to the end of The Last Leaf by O. Henry. This touching story reminds us that hope can appear in the darkest moments, and that even a small act of kindness can change someone's life forever. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next story. Goodbye for now.